Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, as per your respective time zone. On behalf of entire Evosys Managed Service System, we'd like to welcome you all to 22A Cloud PPM Advisory Webinar session. This important session is to keep you fully synchronized with the new features and functionalities as part of this quarter release which Oracle provides. My name is Hardik Patel, and I'm an Operations Manager here at Evosys Managed Service System. Today, I'm your host for this session, and I'm glad to introduce my colleague Anay Jain, who comes from the vast finance team at Evosys. Today, he will take us through all the cloud PPM updates for 22A quarter release. Today's session is planned for around 45 minutes, and we'll also make sure that we leave some time to answer questions you may have. Before we move to today's agenda, let's have a quick look at the important disclaimer. As we all noticed that Oracle has notified some customers about 22 upgrade happening along with the 22B in the month of May. So customers are requested to check respective notifications accordingly. However, this webinar is mainly to equip you with the latest updates on 22A. We would like to convey you our approach towards the Oracle updates in a very simpler method. We'll be taking you through vital analysis for the 22 updates done by our experts, which will help you incorporating new features and updates easily into your system. We'll also sync you on any bugs or known issues that there are any. It's good to have an interactive session, so please do ask questions through chat or question panel, and we'll answer them at the end of this session. In case if we run out of time, we'll also make sure to respond to you back by connecting you even at a later stage. In the next page, this is to give you the glimpse on how we have crafted the structure of this session. So the first thing is the list of new features coming into 22A. We're going to show that to you. Detailing on features so you get brief understanding on what new features are all about. The next one is what are the business benefits and important takeaway for you as a decision maker. There are important components, 4 components we have done in-depth analysis of the features which we are going to present to you today. The first one is impact level analysis, which demonstrate impact on the end user. If it's a low impact, then regression testing can be avoided or not. If it's a high impact, then we need to offer regression testing. The second one, which is we all are aware, that there are some features which are by default auto-enabled by Oracle. There are some which we need to offer. And the third one highlights the nature of the feature. There would be certain configuration which may be required, and some can be used without any changes. And last one, which is a quick win. This term we use to simply convey that what is ready to use by investing minimum amount of time and what requires significant amount of time and effort to make use of this feature. So this is how we have crafted the structure of today's session. Before I hand it over to my colleague, on the quick poll, we would like to know which industry does your organization belongs to? If you can please help us with the same. Thank you for your input. We'll be closing the poll in 5 seconds, and we'll begin for today's session on Cloud PPM.
Thank you, Hardik. Uh, Warm welcome all of you in the today's webinar for Cloud PPM. So let's start with the journey of all the new features that we have in 22A. So first, let's go through. So this time, Oracle PPM come up with the 21 new features. In that, uh, there are 11 feature for which no configurations been needed, and those are quite like a quick win. 5 features are which are just an opt-in, means you need to enable it through the setup and maintenance, and then you can start using those feature. And finally, there are 5 features which require extensive configurations to achieve or to if you want to use those feature. So we'll go in the same sequence where I'll first explain you the 11 features which are a quick win, can be achieved and implemented easily. Then we'll target the next 5 feature which are just opt-ins, and lastly the 5 which require configurations. So let's go through it. So first and foremost feature, which is like a quick win with no configuration, is project rate refresh. So you must have seen this particular screen. Basically, it's a concurrent program screen through which you can run any particular program. So the changes they did in the refresh plan amount concurrent program. So you are aware that, because of job promotions, generally the job based rate keeps on changing, and as and when the job based rate changes or employee rate changes, so of course the business expect that those changes in the rate should have impacts on my planning, budgeting, and costing areas, mainly in the planning, budgeting, and the forecasting. So that's where this program is there, which basically refresh the rate across all the projects. So user didn't go to each and every projects to run this program to refresh the rates. So this particular request was there in the previous release also. What they did in this particular release is they have added two more parameters. One is of project type and another one is of project manager, because many time we keep on receiving the request from the clients that project managers want to run this program but only for their projects, so they can run it as per their wish, and then they can see what are the impacts on the budgets and forecast, and if required they can do some necessary adjustment. But previously these two parameters were not there, and main parameter was business unit and the project org. So by introducing this parameter, so now project manager on their wish, they can run this program, and based on considering the promotions, whatever there's a change in the rates of the employees for costing, so same is going to reflect in your plannings, budgeting, and the forecasting. This is the second feature, which is upfront validation of the cost adjustment before initiating workflow. This is, I would say, one of the most demanded feature, which almost we have received this particular request from all our clients. So generally, whenever you do any adjustment of the cost, might be transferring the cost from one project to another project, or might be making it non-chargeable, chargeable, whatever adjustment you are performing. Previously, what used to happen before 22A, so if you're doing any adjustment, so as and when you do any adjustment, system does not show you any error, and it do that transaction. And if you want to see that that particular transaction of adjustment is successful or not, you have to go into the refund, you have to go into the record history to check what is the adjustment history, whether my transaction is successful or not. But by introducing this feature, what they did is, now system won't allow you to do the transaction itself, it will give you the error. Previously what used to happen, many client we used to, they used to come up with that, okay, we did this adjustment transaction and now it is showing in our period close exception report. So when we check those adjustment, then we identify, oh, the target date or the target project's task is already end dated. So you have to reverse this adjustment and create new adjustment or rectify the project's end date. So means the users won't get it. That was like a additional step that user need to perform specifically to check the adjustment history. But now the good thing they did is, the errors will pop up at the time when you are doing the transaction itself, which make the things more interactive, and to avoid issues which generally user keeps on facing during the period closure. Third is ship to account and site editable on the invoice line. So this is again one of the good feature, because previously whenever uh, if the client need to raise the invoice with different ship to location, okay, so for that they need to create a multiple contract lines with different ship to feature, because previously whenever the draft invoice been generated, at that time system takes the ship to site from the line itself, and system was not allowing at that time to override that ship to site. So by default, if let's take an example, customer is giving services to different location of the customer, so they need to create multiple lines which increase their work too much. But now what they come up with in the new 22A, that as and when you the invoice, the draft invoice been created, you can override the ship to details at the line level, and then you can finalize that invoice. So again, it is going to drastically reduce the effort of the companies who are actively using ship to location in their contracts. Planning currency modification for the plant resource. This is very much useful for the companies or the clients who are having multi-currency projects where they do the planning also in foreign currencies. So now during the during the course of project, if you are seeing that might be due if resource globally get transferred, and if you want to change the planning currency of those resource, so rather than creating a new line, now you can directly change the planning currencies, the budgets and the forecast, and then the system will accordingly recalculate the planning cost. Previously what used to happen, in before 22A, the planning currency field itself was grayed out, so whatever you have added in inception, you have to continue with that only. But now they bring the flexibility here, and now the planning currency can be changed at any point of time. And then once you will do the recalculate, so system will recalculate the planning amounts or your etc esc according to your new currency. So this is the new feature that they come up with. Rates for person without active assignment. This is again most demanding functionality which they come up with. Previously what used to happen, if let's take an example, there's a one new worker is there, okay, who has recently joined, and their assignment means their job positions yet to be entered into the HCM, the human capital management module, okay, so their assignments are not there, okay. Previously if that was the case, then you can't enter the rate of that person in the rate schedule. So basically there was no flexibility that I can do the planning of the new workers in my project because I can't define the rate itself for them. But now, to avoid such disruption, what they come up with, that you can define the person rate schedule even if the person assignment does not exist. So you can define their rate schedule, then you can plan them. And previously many time it happens that as new worker you can't add the rate as assignment does not exist. So then sometime even projects manager forgot to enter those rates later on when the assignment is active, and then when the time cards come into the projects, it result into errors that the rate does not exist. So again, by bringing this feature, now user won't face such issues because they can enter the rate even though assignment does not exist, which was previously not possible. So this is again a good feature, which will of course help the planning driven industries to do their planning in much way forward, I would say, considering their future aspirations. Project progress update for all contract line. So uh, again I'll just compare it. So the main feature what Oracle came up with, that previously if your billing methods are and revenue methods are other than physical percent complete, okay, so then system generally does not bring the physical percent complete that you have captured at the project level, system does not bring at the contract level because their method in the contract is other than physical percent complete. But we used to receive the requirement that we want the progress which we have captured at project level, we want this to be reflect in our contract also, so we can generate the reports like how much progress we have done from the revenue point of view, and how much actually billing has been occurred against it. But it was not possible to do that previously because if my invoice method is other than physical percent complete, then I can't bring that progress itself. But now what they do, they have come up with this update progress, as you can see here, the update progress pattern, through which even if your whatever is your invoice or revenue method, system will allow you to bring the progress from the at the project level, whatever you have captured. Search by item when managing events. So this is uh, uh, very much, I would say, useful for the uh, clients who do the item based billing. When I say item based, which are having output driven billing, like if like a finished goods, like if they have produced this much number of finished goods, then this against that item they will do the billing. Okay, so this is important for them, because such type of industry, whenever they do the billing, they can say that okay, I'm doing the billing against this item. But previously, what capability was not there is that you can't search your billing event based on item. But now in the 22A, in the new release, you can search your billing events by entering the item details. So this is a new feature Oracle has introduced, and very much useful for the companies like manufacturing and engineering companies, whose milestones are more uh, quantity driven, based by producing certain items as a finished goods. Redwood theme for labor distribution schedule. So again, this is applicable for the companies who are using actual costing technique. When I say actual costing, means they are bringing the cost from payroll to project. Because we have seen that in the initial previous in few of the previous release, Oracle come up with new feature where you can link your payroll with the project cost. So what generally happens is that the payroll push the data in one particular screen, which we call as a labor distribution screen, and there the necessary allocation against the project can be done of that particular payroll cost, and from there that data been pushed to the project. Okay, so in that particular labor distribution page, they come up with more simplified user experience, interactive search criteria. So not any major change, but yeah, they make the screen more interactive, so easily transaction can be done on that particular page. So it is, I would say, useful for the clients who are integrating their payrolls with the project cost. Attributes for identifying project imported from EPM. So again, in the previous releases, Oracle has provided the standard integration between enterprise performance management. So many companies, what they are doing as of now is they do the initial profit plan they prepare in EPM. So before award I am talking about. Okay, so uh, before the before the I would say the awarding situation. Okay, generally companies, what they do is they prepare a profit plan, and once that project is awarded, then they push that so the project can be created. So this standard integration Oracle came up with in the previous release. But what was missing was that there was a no way to identify in Oracle projects that which projects been created using the EPM integration or came from EPM. So that's where they come up with two particular identifiers in the project screen itself, that what is the source of this project, whether it's been created manually or it's been created through spreadsheet or it came through EPM. So that's where system give one tag that okay, this project came from EPM. So user can easily search that okay, how many projects been created today through EPM, so they can check those things. Transaction console for project cost adjustment and project expenditure batch approval. So this is again a good feature. So as we have seen in the previous release, Oracle came up with their transaction console for the project status change, so for that purpose, and this time came with the project cost adjustment and project expenditure batch approval. So it is like admin like access. So whoever is having access of project application administrator, they can see all the workflow items, all the notifications related to project expenditure batch and expenditure adjustment, and then they can take the necessary corrective actions on those notification. Like, let's take an example. If they route that particular notification to some other person, so they can do that if the other person is on leave. And if they suppose want to identify that okay, there's some issue in that workflow, so they can do such things. They can diagnose the workflow. Okay, so previously this thing was possible only by IT security manager, but now Oracle has liberalized this, and they given this type of small features even to the project application administrator, so they can see all the notification related to projects and take the necessary action if required. So this was something not available. This particular two workflows were not available in the transaction console previously and they introduced in the 22A. Now we are going to talk about the quick wins which require opt-in, means we need to enable them into the setup and maintenance. And I would say one of the best feature, or again one of the best demanding feature, they come up this one. Because previously what used to happen, suppose the the billing manager, or I would say billing assistant, has created a draft invoice. uh, Against that draft invoice they did some attachment and they sent it for approval to the billing manager. But billing a manager, to them the attachment was not visible in previous release. Okay, so in this particular in the new feature, what they did is that now with notification they can also see the attachment. So previously with notification attachment was not there, but now this is a good thing that they come up with, because this is one of the enhancement requests we receive from many of our client, that they want the attachment also to be visible in the workflow. And that's where it's available now, and I would say it's one of the important feature, because many time uh, uh, the billing assistant attach the working copies or supporting documents related to billing, but then approver again need to identify, do some other ways to see those attachment, because those are not available in the notification. But now it's there, and of course this is feature will be used by many of our clients now. Then the quantity based forecasting. So this is very much useful for, I would say, ENC based companies who are looking for their estimate to complete and estimate at complete, be considering the quantity also and not only amount. Okay, so, and secondly, it is mainly used by the companies or client who are using inventory driven supply chain. Because previously what used to happen, as and when I'm receiving any inventory, and if I want to treat that inventory as a my project cost, okay, then system used to bring only amount, not quantity. So whatever is coming in my cost is only actual cost, there is a no quantity. And that's why when I generate the forecast, system was not giving me any quantity, that okay, how many further quantity you are going to get consumed. So even though I have earned value analysis in the Oracle module, Oracle PPM, but I can't use it because it just give the amount driven earned value and not quantity driven. So for the in the inventory driven supply chain, now they are bringing the quantity also in with cost. So I can have forecasting based on quantity, rather than just looking at the amounts. Mass transfer of resource pool membership. This is project resource management feature. So in project resource management, we know that resource pool can be created based on skill or based on region. But at the year end, many time in organization changes happens, where in some regions, some portfolio move from here to there. And at that time requirement comes in that, okay, we want to transfer all the employees in this resource pool to another one. But in previous release the mass feature was not there, means there was no way that I can transfer my mass employees from one resource pool to another. So I know what we did for one organization, that we have to do it manually, or we updated it through REST APIs. But now they come up with very new feature on the screen itself, through which you can transfer the mass resource from one pool to another pool. So great feature. This is one of the good feature they come up in the resource management. Enhanced edit work plan template capabilities. So as we know, again, this is related to the project management feature. So whoever are using project management application, for them, uh, so now they can leverage their work plan template in more efficient way, because in the work plan template itself they come up with some new enhancement, like you can do the partial day scheduling, you can create dependency in the uh, work plan template itself, you can even align the resource in the template itself, and then you can use that template to create new project. So basically it will reduce your keystroke when you actually the project's been created, because many things will get defaulted from the template. So now basically you can bring more standardization in the work plan template itself. So basically through that you we can avoid the other unnecessary efforts then spent by project manager uh, on those actual project work plan. So they enhance the capability of templates to reduce the effort during the actual project planning. Notification to project managers of resource request cancellation. So this is again a feature of project resource management. So the overall functionality is that when the project manager requests for a resource and it goes to the resource manager, and if resource manager cancel that request due to reason unavailability of resource, or the request itself is not correct, then project manager will receive the notification for the same, that your resource request is cancelled. Previously it was missing. So I think it is more to increase the a collaboration between the project manager and the resource manager. So for this, again, it's an opt-in feature. So of course you need to just enable it in the setup and maintenance, and then you can use it. And now we'll talk about new features which are not quick win, basically, which require configuration. So we'll talk about it. Project business object audit support. So I think that's where now Oracle is hitting or considering audit as one of the important factor in the PPM module. So in last release, we have seen that Oracle came up with the rate schedule audit feature, because previously there was a no control in the rate schedules. Anybody can change it, and what you can get through the screen is only who has last updated it. There is a no record history that from till date who all has updated it, what was the old value, what was the new value. So they introduced in last release in the rate schedule, and this time they come up with the project all itself. So this time they bring the audit feature in the projects. So when I say in the projects, means project as a transaction, I'm saying. So now you can at any point of time, if you enable the audit feature on your projects, so you can see that, okay, who updated my projects, who has changed the end date of the project, who changed the end date of this task, or who changed this planning element, anything. Because this is, I would say, of course it's require a configuration, but it is a it's I think this ask came from all of our clients, wherein they ask for that we need audit, that who updated this, what was the old value, what's the new value, how it's updated, or who changed the status of this project. Previously the limitation was that you can only see who has who has lastly updated this record, but not with all the trails, that okay, this five guy has updated it on this time with this value. So this is very important feature, and I think it is again require configuration, but it's one of the important feature to bring more internal control, because generally we give the project access to even team members who are working on those projects, and sometimes they do those some changes which is not good changes. So a good feature, enabling the audit on the project transactions. Burden line reconciliation. So this is also important feature, and again linked with the last release feature. So in the last release, Oracle came up that okay, the burden grouping can be created. So no, you can group your transactions, or your burden cost will be created against the transaction. So you can group your burden cost. So yeah, I was talking about this feature. So I think this is the feature where were. So yeah, so burden transaction is again, it's a new feature came up in the 22A, where system will populate the transaction number against the source transaction number against each burden line, whatever been created once the actual cost came from the other sources. So this is again useful for the companies who are using burden functionality. So it's mainly related to that. Let's go to the next one. Expanded view project plan access for non-team members. So this is specifically for the companies who are using project execution management. So basically now, of course, there is a requirement always that they want to give the access of the project plan to the team member also, so they can see, what how it's going, what's the progress. But the previous issue was that whenever you give the access to the project plan, they also get the privilege to edit it. But now, with the new privileges, Oracle came up in this new release that you can give the access to the team member, which is very much restricted as a view only. So, no project team members can edit the plan. So again, important, but for only for those who are using the project management, or the project execution management. So for those, it's a good feature. Project cost adjustment approval workflow. So this feature is applicable if you are using approvals whenever you are doing any adjustment in the cost. And I think all companies are generally using the cost adjustment approvals, because of course, if you are transferring the cost from one project to another project, then it must be approved by the must be approved by the project manager, where you are actually actually transferring the cost. So again, a good feature is that, yeah, here basically they have expanded the way you can, design the approvals. So now you can even design the approvals which work as a parallel, where three to four the notification will trigger to some parallel participants, and then one of them can claim and approve it. So previously the only option was that you can define the approval which is like a sequential. But now in the project cost adjustment, they come up with the parallel participant feature also, where you can parallelly push the workflow to the multiple approvers. And then this particular feature is mainly related to the specifically that they come up with some new REST APIs, again very specific to the project execution management. So you can create non-project event, you can update the resource confirmations, and of course you can check the utilization detail for the resources uh, via the API. So basically this will be useful for the companies, who are using some third party tools, and they want to build some integrations between the project resource management and the projects, Oracle projects. So that's where, of course, this is useful, and this REST APIs can be used. So these were all the feature that's there in the 22A. Of course, some of them which require configuration is also very important. And apart from that, whatever quick wins are there, it's totally based on the multiple enhancement, which has been logged in the Oracle. And yeah, many of the good features this time came in 22A. Now we'll talk about the as a Evosys we bring the business value. So as we discussed, and as we also previously mentioned, that Evosys itself is having a great value-based analytics, consist of 390 plus pre-built analysis in the finance, in PPM, and in the way supply chain and the human capital management. So basically this bring our overall services more in proactive mode, give more business values. So many major KPIs like your procure to pay cycle time, your overall utilizations of the system, your financials ratios, like your current ratios, return on uh, investment, everything can be achieved through the solution which we in Evosys call it is a value based analytics, consist of 390 plus analysis and 185 pre-built KPI. So in one of I took just one of the example that we just developed in this VBA is a project close checklist. So very much important for the project driven industry, because whenever you are closing a project, it is very much important for you to understand that is it right time to close the project. When I say right time, that have you billed everything to the customer? Is there any non billable cost still exist? Do you have you fully utilized the budget, or is there any remaining budget exist? Do you have any open commitments still? Do you have any revenue which yet to be generated? So any cost which yet to be capitalized? So all the parameters you can see it through one screen, and through which the project manager can decide that is it the right time to close the project or not. Okay, so this is the one of the report we have developed as a part of our VBA initiative, which is already become a giant product now. And so this is one of the examples. So in the same way, we have a 390 plus pre-built analytics which serve different purpose in the finance, HCM, and in all other tracks. Yep. So I'm handing over here to the Hardik. And if you have any questions, so of course, now it's a time to you can ask us. And
Thank you for
Hardik.
the one. Yeah, thank you for the wonderful insights, Anay. Uh, on the quick poll on screen, we would like to note down your area of interest in order to organize future webinar with more value-based content. So here is the poll to let us know your area of interest, whether it's managed services, innovation technologies, RPA, chatbot, AI, VBA, data mastering tool, cloud transformation. Thank you for the call, polls. And as we see, there is no question. So we'd like to keep you posted that we'll be sending you a recording of today's session along with a presentation PDF, which if you would like to pass it to your colleagues. And if you have any question, you can also write to us on business@evosysglobal.com, or you can also reach out to the project manager if any one-to-one help is required. And before you all leave us, we would like you to rate us on a scale of 1 to 5 on how was the overall experience of today's session. It's the last poll, and we need your help in order to improve further. Thank you so much. And once again, we would like to appreciate everyone for sparing today's time for today's session. And if you have any feedback, do leave it to us. Thank you. We'll be closing the poll. And as mentioned earlier, you'll be receiving presentation PDF along with the recording of today's session in 48 to 72 hours time. Thank you so much once again.